Alright guys, welcome back to the Daily Dose. My name is XONEVANT, and I was reading through a lot of articles today, just catching up on some news, and I came across this article, and the title is very interesting. It says, people might actually be able to emulate the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Now, if you're like me, when you hear the term emulator, you automatically think retro games, right? I mean, older games, you know, companies are out of business. They don't make the games anymore. They're hard to find. Maybe they cost a lot of money on eBay in order to get that copy of that rare game that you're trying to play. And the quick way out is just to get the emulator for it, put it on your PC, you know, open up the file and play. Now, personally, I really don't know how to feel about emulators, because one side of me says, the gamer inside of me says, you know, if you didn't grow up in the retro days and you're trying to journey back and play some of those games, getting all the consoles and buying all the games can be super expensive. So, you know, part of me says, look, if you can play the game, play the game. You know what I mean? Because the gamer in me wants you to experience some of the really cool things that existed back in the retro, you know, day. But then the other side of me kind of knows that you're getting something for free. You know what I mean? In a way, you're kind of stealing something. You know what I mean? Now, granted, some of these companies are out of business. You can't even put money into these companies anymore because they don't exist. But there's still a market for these games on the internet, you know, online, you know, buy, sell, and trade and stuff like that. So technically, at that point, you're just getting the game for free. And now we enter into a whole nother level of discussion, right? There's some people who say, look, if I buy a PlayStation 4, or I buy an iPhone, or I buy an iPad, or I buy whatever, I should be able to do with that device whatever I want to with that device. And if I'm smart enough to get into the infrastructure of that device and figure something out, you know, there shouldn't be any penalties for me as a consumer after the fact. Then there are other people who say, no, that's illegal. You're tampering with the product, you know, especially, you know, in terms of hacking the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Both of those consoles were hacked, and people were able to get free games without paying any money for them. You see what I mean? And in that regard, it's illegal. It's like stealing, right? Because you're not paying anything and you're getting something in return. Now, we know just by looking at, you know, this previous generation with PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 that it is possible for the gaming industry to survive, even though there are a bunch of consoles out there that are hacked and people getting the games for free, because, you know, we're already into another generation. We survived it. But it also shows that we have a culture or a generation of gamers that are ready to get stuff for free and not pay for it, which ends up hurting the industry. You know, we as gamers are always saying stuff like, we want better graphics, and we want better this, and we want better that, and better. All that better requires money. You see what I mean? They have to hire developers. They have to staff up their studios and stuff like that to be able to pump out the content that we need. I mean, when you look at something like Grand Theft Auto, that was what, over $250 million budget to make one video game. That took a lot of salaries to pay off some of these employees to be able to make the game. So as we buy games like Grand Theft Auto, right, Grand Theft Auto 5, we are basically putting that money back into that studio and hoping that they'll give us another game or give us another, you know, project or a sequel or something like that. Now, I know for a fact there's probably somebody in their basement right now trying to figure out how to hack these consoles, right? I mean, that's without a doubt. Somebody out there is trying to work really hard to get these two consoles hacked. So let's just say that within a year, right? Now, this thing could be like, I mean, people are smart these days. So let's say, you know, within a year, somebody hacks the consoles, right? Both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And then let's say within another year or two, there's an emulator for it. Now, what kind of impact would that have on the industry? Because it seems like it's costing more money now to make games. The back end of things, they are depending on us to consume their product so they can make future games. Because let's just be real, guys. If all these studios put out all these games and then we don't buy them, you know what I mean? We get them through other means. Whether, like I said, whether you think it's illegal or not doesn't matter. When you're not paying for those games, you're not putting money back into the industry. And that would eventually mean that these studios would not make any money. And that would eventually mean that they would have to shut down. And then that would eventually mean that we wouldn't have any games to play. Now, again, this is kind of a hypothetical situation, but it does pose some interesting questions that I'd like to hear you guys' opinion on. So, you know, let me know in the comments below. What do you think about emulators, you know, hacking and modding consoles, you know, not actually paying for the games that you play, getting them for free? You guys know kind of where I stand. With the emulators with retro, I'm kind of in the middle, but when it comes to current gen games that we are in, you know, the current gen systems, I'm all for buying the game. I am not for, you know, any of the other stuff. I'm all about buying the physical copy of the game, or even the digital copy of the game, if that's how you like to pay for them. That's how I would prefer this generation to go down. But based on the last generation, we do know that there's a lot of people out there who wants to hack their consoles, get the games for free, and not put money back into the industry. Now, if that happens this generation, we as a gaming culture, we can't sit back and say, man, we want better graphics, we want better this, we want better that and the other, if we're not willing to put the money back into the industry to make it happen. And that's kind of where my stance is. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's show. You guys be good.